intention is to procure 500,000 sets. So hindi siya doses kasi 'di ba may
Yes.
2 doses. So the target is to actually vaccinate 500,000 Makatizens. So, of course, it will be subject to, ang uunahin namin palagi is based on the priorities, which is the frontliners, the senior citizens, those with comorbidities. But because of the extra money that we are going to be able to procure our vaccine, we will be able to vaccinate even the general public. Kasi technically they're at the end of the list because subject to supply, subject to resources. So now that there is an allocation coming from the national government, there's also an allocation of vaccines coming from the city government. So we will work hand in hand to ensure that all Makatizens will be vaccinated.
So, maraming tanong na maraming tao, ano yung mga bakuna? Ano yung mga bakuna na kukunin ng Makati government? Will it be the Chinese vaccines?
So with my conversation with Sec Charlie, I've already told him that they are currently under talks with Pfizer. So sabi ko kay Sec, ako sasabay din po ako ng order for Pfizer. So sabi niya, sige ma'am, ongoing pa yung negotiations. So whether it be, I told him, sir, gusto ko po Pfizer, gusto ko po Janssen, gusto ko po AstraZeneca. So, yun po yung tatlong brands na gusto ko po dahil ito po yung sa tingin ko madali na kumbinsihin yung tao magpabakuna. You know, the first challenge is one, to encourage people to get vaccinated. The second challenge is to convince people to get vaccinated based on what brand you're going to use. So, two steps yan kasi yung first hurdle is maraming ayaw magpa-vaccine because of the issue with vaccine. There is we still have to build confidence.
Vaccine confidence.
Vaccine confidence. So when you hurdle that, the next question will be, anong brand? Saan galing? Anong klase? The problem now is there's so much information, accessible information, that people are getting opinionated in a way. Ayoko yan. Ito gusto ko. So, after I've spoken to Sec Charlie, syempre tinanong ko yung mga doktor sa Makati Med kasi they are also frontliners that will be first vaccinated. Tapos nagtanong ako sa labas. Sabi ko, kayo ba pag libre akong bakuna, ito ba gusto nyo? Ito ba hindi nyo gusto? So there is really a consensus, and I've told that to Sec Charlie. The issue of the West and the East vaccine, whether we as more confident towards the Western vaccine, I guess it might be cultural because sasabihin naman but China, sinasabi po nila ang China maganda po yung vaccine. They've inoculated 1 million people. So, again, basta ako, ito yung tatlong choices ko. Yun lang.
Mayor, is this your initiative? Kasi ang balita namin, other mayors are also preparing their own funding, all the preparations sinahanda na nila for the rollout. Is this your initiative or did you get any instruction from the DILG na mag-initiate na kayo, kanya-kanya, maghanda na kayo?
Actually,
are you supposed to provide your own funding?
No. This is really an initiative of all the LGUs kasi I have never attended an IATF meeting wherein nagbigay po ng instruction na mag-allot kayo ng pondo. Ang lagi naming tinatanong, sir, kailan na po magiging ready? Sir, ano na pong status ng vaccination? Sir, gusto po namin bumili. So we were never instructed to procure or to allocate funds to procure our own vaccines. This is really...
Pero wala namang pumipigil sa inyo. Nobody is stopping you if you are initiating this. Kasi maraming namin nababalita ang mayors are doing the same. So, wala namang pumipigil sa inyo. You can do it.
Yes, you can. You can order, but you have to order it through the national government. So the system is centralized procurement. It's very typical sa government eh. Like for example, yung aming mga bond paper. Yung office supplies namin is centralized with DBM. So it's the same kasi nga again, this is a product that is not registered with FDA. This is a product that has emergency authorization. So only the national government, 'di ba lagi ko sinasabi ng DOH, only the national government can buy. So, bibili po ang national government, makikisabay lang po kami sa national.
So it's not like it's clear, it's centralized, but once nag-order kayo, ano po yung order nun? First come, first serve lang yan? Is that simple?
You have to tell Sec Charlie that how much you want to buy. Kasi silang nakikipag-usap with the pharma eh. Hindi naman kami. Kasi kahit makipag-usap kami sa pharma, sasabihin ng pharma, Mayor, makipag-usap po kayo sa IATF kay Sec Charlie. Kasi siya po ang kausap namin. But you have to tell Sec Charlie or IATF, how many do you want to buy?
Paano kung yung availability, Mayor, ay question? Halimbawa, mauna yung Sinopharm or Sinovac for whatever reason. Are you willing to go for that even if that's not the preferred brand of your constituents?
No. Diretso talaga yung sagot. No. Well, for sure naman, mauuna talaga yung Sinovac ata. I'm not sure about the Sinopharm because almost patapos na yung talks with them. So yung Pfizer kasi, although ongoing yung negotiations, you also have to remember yung supply, the global supply, and the global demand for Pfizer. So kaya nga ang prediction nila is mga second or third quarter pa if ever makakakuha tayo with Pfizer. So again, if my constituents are willing to wait, yung bibilin ko. Pero kung yung national, kasi for sure, ang unang maro-roll out, national government eh. Kasi mauuna yung Sinovac procurement nila. So ngayon, sasabihin, gusto niyo bang pabakuna? Pili na tayo, magpabakuna na kayo. No, if you want to wait for Pfizer, then let's wait.
So you'll wait?
Yeah.
You'll wait. Oh, okay. What about the price? I mean, is that a factor that you even considered?
Okay, for the price, even assuming on a high, the cost is at 2,000 pesos, we are still going to be able to target the 500,000. Kaya nga 1B yung inallocate namin. So, if you look at the prices, the most expensive one is Moderna. Moderna is around $32 to $37 US. The cheapest one is AstraZeneca, which is around $3 to $5 US. So, again, it's not the price, but the supply and the kind of brand that we want to procure.
Yeah, what about infrastructure and logistics? Pagka po i-order kayo or tumakay kayo sa order ng national government, that presupposes that you're also ready on the ground with your cold chain storage and so on?
Yes. So the nice thing about, of course, there's a lot of talk about the issue of storage when it comes to Pfizer kasi 'di ba kailangan sobrang baba ng temperature. But the nice thing about Makati is we are nasa central kami. So cold storage is not an issue. Logistics is not an issue either because that's the reason why we are pre-registering. Because you can put the vaccine in an ice box. It just shortens the shelf life of the vaccine. Pero kung mabavaccinate mo na sila agad, so you don't have that issue.
Hindi problema yun. Ganun ba yun?
Problema ng logistics at storage are those that are in the provinces. Tsaka sabog yung tao nila. They're like scattered all over the place and they don't know where they are. So, that's also the reason why the IATF is encouraging na mag-prepare na kayo ng listahan. Sino itong mga babakunahan ninyo? Tapos, we will also be using GIS. We also be using QR code. So, marami pa kaming kailangang paghandaan hanggang sa dumating yung vaccine. Kasi we also need post-monitoring after vaccination, yung side effects. Plus the issue of, di ba pag 2 doses, yung tendency na hindi bumalik.
Yes.
So
Right,
that's
right.
also another challenge na kailangan tutukan mo at alam mo kung nasan sila.
Oo.
Mayor,
Pero yung registration,
Mayor, I understand you learned na may resistance sa mga non-Western vaccines from the frontliners. What about dun sa mga low-income communities? Are you getting reports of resistance to any kind of vaccination? Kasi medyo nagkaroon tayo ng problema sa Dingvaxa, di ba? And there is resistance to it. Ano yun dun sa mga depressed communities? Kumusta naman sila?
Ang maganda kasi is last year we initiated our free flu and pneumonia vaccine. So that was in a way a test. Gusto niyo ba magpabakuna? Are you starting to be more confident with the vaccine? So in fairness, yung pneumonia vaccine namin ubos. That was I think 30,000 doses. Tapos yung flu namin ubos din. So hindi kami masyadong nahirapan because we started with the pre-registration. As of today, when we launched the 1 billion initiative to procure vaccines, ang dami po nagte-text sa akin. Ang unang tanong palagi ay, anong brand? Always. That is always the question. So, this is not whether you're rich or you're poor. We will procure the one that is acceptable to all.
So yung brand awareness
hindi
wala
naman
lahat.
pwedeng, diba, kasi mahirap, ito lang bigay natin. So we're not doing that.
so may database na rin pala kayo. So
Yes.
does that mean that registration will be easier
Yes.
to track? And ano yan? Online registration ba yan, Mayor?
So the
Paano yan?
initiative we did last year was online. So online din yung gagawin namin, online registration. But the nice thing about this is because we already have the database, we already know our senior citizens. We have over 80,000 senior citizens because they have their blue card. So alam na namin kung sino sila, saan sila nakatira, ilang taon na sila. So ganun din yung yellow card holders namin, those that avail of our free healthcare. We also have that database. So again, if you're looking at our population, our voting population last in 2019 was at 454,000. So yung 500,000, sobrang doable siya because we are not planning to vaccinate people below 18.
Okay.
We're
What
only
about
going to vaccinate those that are of age of consent.
All right. What about the day population?
Yeah, the
Ang
market
laki ng
population.
day population
Yeah.
ng Makati. Paano yun?
Yung day population, usually yung working yung mga it balloons to over 1 million. 5 million pa nga ata. So, I'm hoping that, I think companies, I think I also heard that Ayala will be procuring also AstraZeneca. So, most companies will be procuring their own vaccines for their workers. So kami naman, we're studying if kaya pa, meron pa kaming pera, may savings pa kami to procure more, to be able to accommodate those that are not resident but are actually working inside the city because we need them.
Right.
So again, it really depends if we still have money and we still have, may makukuha ka pang stock ng vaccine.
Yeah. Ma'am, nabanggit niyo kanina, I mean, that Makati is pretty far, it's at least ahead of the game in terms of having the infrastructure for online registration. You can track your people and so on. But just to give us ideas, in case I live in an LGU na, not as advanced, not as high tech, hindi pa what else needs to be put in place to make sure that we can track our people, we can make sure that they get the 2 doses necessary. Ano pa po yung mga kailangan na paghandaan ng mga LGUs?
I think they really have to build their, that's what we call our health information management system. They should invest in that. Ilan ba? Ang tanong una is, ilan ba sa kanilang gusto magpabakuna? Kasi we also have to look at the prioritization. Our priority is the frontliners. The second priority are the senior citizens and those that are 18 to 59 that have comorbidities. So kailangan you keep track of their health records. So if you are a fifth class municipality or your fourth class municipality, sino ba talagang gusto magpabakuna? And do you really need it? Kasi there are others that are very isolated that really don't need the vaccine anyway.
Paano yung mga ayaw, Mayor? Paano kung ayaw?
We cannot force them. But of course, if you don't have your vaccine, for example, pwede magkaroon ng health restrictions, meaning hindi ka pwede mag-travel abroad. I mean, we don't know how things will go kasi. If eventually they will require, for example lang ha, if for you to come into a country, which sometimes they do, kailangan meron kang vaccination shots. They might require that. So again, this is not mandatory, it is voluntary, and it is really up to them if they want to avail of it or not.
Ma'am, but how long are you willing to wait? Kung kasi mukhang priority nga yung Chinese vaccines as far as the government is concerned. How long are you willing to wait? What if the other vaccines are only available by the end of the year or maybe early next year, for all we know?
If it is available and people want to avail of it, I'm not gonna stop them. Sige, magpa-vaccine kayo with Sinovac, Sinopharm, or whatever. Diba? Para
Pero
sa
kayo
akin,
magbabayad.
kung
Sila
gusto mo
magbabayad.
na magpabakuna, this will, the national government will allocate per LGU
I see.
vaccines. So, kanyari, ito NCR, yung buong NCR, ang allocation po niya ay ganito kadami. So, ito ganito kay Pateros, ganito kay QC, ganito kay... So, meron kaming mga allotments that will come from the national government. So, kaya nga ang proposal ng LGUs is supplement lang kami dun sa ibibigay ng national government.
Pero, okay.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
hard to stop it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Makati Mayor Abby Binay, ma'am, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll just go into a gap, so please stay with us.
Welcome back to this New Year's edition of the Chiefs. And we just had a talk with the mayor of possibly one of the wealthiest cities in the Philippines, Makati Mayor Abby Binay, and she has setting aside 1 billion. Kaya kayo mga taga Makati, Ed, ikaw taga Makati, nakahanda ka na ba magpabakuna? Magpapabakuna ka ba? May brand preference.
Depende ko nung brand.
Second in line ka raw, Ed. Second in line ka raw.
Oh, second.
After frontliners, pwede ka na raw.
Pagdating ng
Depende
mga
ko nung brand, no?
kahit
Di
hindi
raw
pa
senior siya eh.
Senior citizen, pwede.
Fourth siya. Fourth priority.
Kung ako senior, ano kaya kayong dalawa? Ni Abby.
Wala pang program yung aming lungsod eh. Diba?
Pero maganda yung may natutunan tayo kay Mayor Abby, no, na yung sa cold chain storage, of course yung unang bagsak, and lalo na kung ita-transport, that's when the minus 70 degrees Celsius is very, very important during the transport especially. Pero kung malapit lang, sabi niya, you can actually make two with storage as long as maisaksak ka agad, di ba? And as long as they can deliver the shots within a shorter period.
Pero nakaka-insecure kasi yung efficacy eh, di ba? Parang you wonder, syempre, pag matagal na nasa shelf, baka mamaya, humina, di ba, yung bisa. So I think that's also a factor. Although, kasi di ba, remember they said that a negative 70 storage system is not actually existent here, no? I mean, we don't have that. So nakaka-concern din because
either you're very efficient in delivering it, and nagkataon naman na ang hotspot talaga is NCR. So that's one thing going for NCR. Na dito babagsak, and hopefully we can easily reach out to all our residents much easier than kung malayo nga naman probinsya, but on the other hand, pagka naman liblib yung nayon mo, malamang wala rin namang COVID doon.
Pero pinanunod ko yung rollout, about 50 countries na. Nakarating na yan sa Middle East, and init-init doon sa mga disyerto. Nakikita ko, it's Pfizer.
Mayaman yung mga yun eh.
Hindi, ang Pfizer.
Pagdating sa air conditioning and refrigeration.
Ang Pfizer ang nag-aasikaso nung transport. Nilalagay nila dun sa kanilang mga, yung super cold, yung ice pellets nila. Yon. But anyway, siguro ipasok natin another chief executive of Metro Manila na I think nagpapa-reserve din ng kanilang mga vaccines. We'd like to welcome for the new year the Mayor of Navotas, Mayor Toby Chanco. Good evening, Mayor.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Mayor. Happy New Year.
Greetings.
Yes.
Ano po yung Happy New Year niyo sa constituent niyo? Naghahanda din po kayo to procure the vaccine. May funding din po ba kayo kapareho ng ibang mga mayors ngayon in Metro Manila? How is it? How are your preparations?
Yes, may funding na kami, pero syempre hindi naman namin kaya yung 1 billion. No? Hihingi na lang ako kay Abby kung may sobra. Doon sa 2021 budget namin, when we proposed this last September pa lang sa council, nilagyan na namin yan ng 20 million. No? But of course, we can increase that siguro hanggang 60, 80 kaya namin. No? But syempre, umaasa kami dun sa national government kasi ang usapan naman dito nung una is they will take the lead at kung gusto lang magdagdag ng LGU, magdadagdag kami. So yun yung unang usapan, dagdag lang naman yung amin, hindi naman namin kayang sagutin lahat yan. No? Yes, that's why nung una, 20 lang linagay namin, but depende kasi yung last meeting namin was still last December, no? So nag-request nga ako ng meeting sana as soon as possible so that ma-determine how it's moving along, no? And doon sa Navotas kasi ang ginawa ko is noong nag-informal survey kami noong December 29 up to midnight last night. Kasi sabi ko, kung bibili tayo ng vaccine, number 1, sigurado ba tayo na payag yung mga residente? Number 2, kung payag man sila, ano yung vaccine na pipiliin nila? So the first question was, kung libre ang vaccine ng COVID-19, papayag ka bang magpa-vaccine? So ang tatlo ang choices doon. Oo, hindi, or depende sa brand. So kung hindi yung yes, kung hindi yung pinili niyong sagot, then may next question yon. Bakit niyo ayaw magpa-vaccine? Kasi gusto namin maintindihan bakit ayaw nila doon sa mga ayaw. And then, doon sa nagsabing depende sa brand, pipiliin mo ngayon yung brands. So ngayon, na-extract na namin yan. May idea na kami kung ano yung paboritong brand nung mga tiga na votas, at least.
Parang sa Bunyera.
Ano pong preference niya?
So, Robbie, yung oo, kahit anong brand, is just 18%. Okay? Yung hindi is almost equal, 17.9%. Yung depende sa brand, 64.1%. Okay? So out of the universe na 64.1% ng depende sa brand, ang first is 84.2, which is Pfizer. Second is 6.1%, which is Moderna. Third is AstraZeneca at 3.8%. Fourth is yung Sputnik at 3.5%. Tapos, sumunod yung Sinovac 1.2, tapos yung Novavax 0.8, and last yung Sinopharm, which is 0.4%. So, that's why I requested a meeting with the national government is para malaman ano ba yung tinutumbok nilang bilhin na vaccine. Kasi kung hindi naman naayon dun sa kagustuhan ng residente namin, we might have to allocate a bigger budget, di ba?
Pero Mayor, how does this survey affect your call or your decision on whether on what vaccine you'd prefer to buy for your city?
Yun na nga. So, sinusubukan namin kunin yung contact numbers ng mga in charge dito sa mga kumpanyan ito. Then, of course, there are a lot of questions first, no? So, kunyari, syempre yung top 4, kausapin namin. Isa-isa. Kung bibili kami, magkano ba talaga yung presyo? Number 2, kailan yung ba talaga ma-deliver? Number 3, who is in charge of the cold chain? Kasi yung sa Pfizer, may issue ng cold chain, di ba? Yung -80 o -70. Who will be in charge of that? Number 4, ano yung efficacy? Number 5, anong age ba talaga yung pwede? So may madaming tanong. Then we make a matrix. Then pag-aralan namin which is most suitable. Di ba?
Pero ang relative value ng mga factors na yon? Halimbawa, paano kung ang available lang ay hindi Pfizer? Kunyari, paano kung AstraZeneca, which is a very low 6% preference according to your survey, do you think you will be in a position to convince them to, yeah, pwede na Astra? Or ano yan? Anong approach?
Ganito yung concept na plano namin, di ba? So out of the universe, sabihin natin 250,000 residents kasi yung nabotas, di ba? Anong age ba yung pwedeng i-bakunahan? So sabihin natin, for example lang, no, para lang mas madali yung discussion, yung mga ages na syempre na hindi pwede, tatanggalin namin sa 250,000, di ba? So, sabihin mo yung ages na above this or below that, hindi pwede. So sabihin mo natiran tayo ng 200,000. Out of 200,000, we will multiply it by the percentages. Tapos ilan doon yung kayang bilhin ng LGU at gaano sila makabilis makakapag-supply. And then that's the process of when we will start asking people, itong AstraZeneca, ang dating nito is ganitong buwan at ang makukuha ng LGU is ganito. So, first come, first serve doon sa mga frontliners muna. Kasi this is assuming na mauna yung LGU doon sa national government. But of course, kung mauna yung national government doon sa amin, yung next vulnerable sector, yung ililista namin. So it depends on the vulnerability of the sector. Pero mas maganda sana if the national government agency would lead us. I would think, sana kung mas madami, di ba parang lahat naman ng binibili yata, pag mas madami, mas mura, at saka mas makakahagal ka on delivery. So mas maganda kung yung national government will lead us kaysa isang LGU kami nag-negotiate.
Sir, linawin ko lang, kasi kanina nabanggit ni Mayor Abby Binay that no matter what happens, all the orders have to be centralized with the national government. I'm just a bit confused with what you said. Is it in the realm of the possibility na mauna ang LGU sa national government? What exactly does that mean when Mayor Binay says all the orders have to be centralized to the national government?
Tama, yun yung agreement noong December, di ba? Pero what if the brand that is preferred in Navotas is not their priority?
I see.
Di ba? Then we will have to ask permission na baka pwede naman kung hindi nyo
Dumiretso na lang
priority
kayo.
ito o kung hindi, di ba? That's why we have to that's why I've asked for a meeting to clarify all these issues. No?
Okay.
So how do we proceed?
And you're still
Pero Mayor-
seeking clarification on that. Wala pang sagot doon on whether or not pwede, I mean, in certain scenarios, pwede bang dumiretso na lang kami? Wala pa pong kasagutan doon.
Wala pa, no? But I've shared the data with Secretary Galvez para lang, at least, in our part, sa Navotas, ginawa namin yung share. Kasi, kunyari, pipili sila ng isang vaccine. Sabihin nila, itong brand na to, brand A. Ano yung basis ng pagpili? Of course, hindi ko naman sasabihin na totally scientific yung survey because we opened it to Navotas residents and only 6,128 responded, no? Pero sana naman may basis kung bakit ito. Kasi yung vaccination is purely voluntary. It cannot be mandatory. Mahirap naman yung bibili tayo ng vaccine later o nakastock lang dyan. Wala namang gusto gumamit.
Although sabi kasi, in another interview, but this was a long time ago, ang sinabi nga ng government ay meron sila talagang portfolio. In other words, they will order where they can and that's what they'll bring in, no? So, paano kung kunyari mauna nga yung iba? Halimbawa, yung preferred ninyong Pfizer, paano nga kung dumating sa second half of this year? Are you willing to wait?
Luchi, meron naman kasing payag doon sa kung ano yung, I mean, kahit papano may konti naman papayag doon, di ba? So sabihin mo, sabihin natin 1% of Navotas residents is still 2,500 persons. O sige, itong in-order nyo, for example, is Sinovac, 1%, 1.2%. O di unahin na natin lahat nung papayag dyan, di ba?
Yeah.
So, yun lang. Kasi ang last meeting namin, tama kayo, and tama yung sinabi ni Mayor Abby, wala pang brands noon eh. Parang we're negotiating with this, we're negotiating with that. That was before Christmas, di ba? So, siguro ngayon, mas may liwanag na para malaman rin kung paano kaming mag-proceed. If they will really take the lead, then so much the better for all of us.
Kasi di ba sa mga balita, lumalabas Sinovac yung malamang mauna. March yun. So in that case, unahin mo na muna yung mga 1% na boto sa Sinovac.
Yes, yung 1.20%. Or baka naman by the time dumating yung Sinovac, may mas madami makumbinsi. Because the thing is, dapat ngayon, habang nag-iintay tayo ng vaccine, dapat may information campaign na eh. Di ba?
Yes.
Hindi lang sa brand. Number one, may halos 20% yung, I mean, this is in Navotas, no? I don't know in other places. Siguro pwede kayo magtanong-tanong sa office mates nyo. I think meron talagang hindi pa kumbinsido magpa-vaccine eh. So I think ngayon pa lang dapat meron ng information campaign doon muna sa vaccination process, 'di ba? Wag muna yung brand, just the vaccine and explaining what the vaccine is all about, why people should not be apprehensive about the vaccine. So sa tingin ko yun ang pinakamahalaga sa ngayon.
Mayor, yung timeline dyan sa mga Western vaccines, ang pinakamaaga nila is July eh. In the meantime, anong balak ninyong gawin kung hindi naman matuloy yung vaccination? And now people are warning na nag-expect daw ng spike in cases after the holidays. And now we're all watching for this variant na wala pa naman sa Pilipinas. Kaya lang nga, well, merong ganun, may apprehension na baka nga lumala pa yung problema natin before the vaccination starts. Ano yung mga ginagawa ngayong preparation sa Navotas in the meantime?
So, we have not loosened up on the health protocols, no? Medyo nagluag lang kami doon sa curfew nung simbang gabi. Pero after that, balik na naman kami doon sa curfew. Today, pagbalik sa opisina, we required all City Hall employees na magpa-swab test, no? So lahat sila magpapaswab test to ensure na pagbigay nila ng serbisyo sa ating mga kababayan, COVID-free sila, no? So yan yung ginagawa natin. And then we will find out, I think, at the earliest, by January 15, kung may spike yan, makikita natin unti-unti yung spike by January 15. But yung safest evaluation, I think, will be by January 30, kung talagang nagka-spike sa Metro Manila o hindi.
Open ba kayo na maghigpit ulit? To tighten
Nako,
restrictions?
hindi na. Ayaw na. Hindi na kakayanin. Hindi na kakayanin. Hindi na kakayanin. And, I mean, we've learned na naman from the past lessons, hindi na siguro kailangan, no? Meron lang kami ginagawa ng mga granular lockdowns, no? Katulad, I think, in the first week of December, there was one street in Navotas nagka-19 cases. So, yung street lang na yun, nilockdown namin. Right after Christmas, I think on the 27th or the 28th, may dalawang magkapitbahay na we were forced to lockdown kasi there were 6 cases. Yun ang nangyari. Yun yung sinasabing Pasko kasi may dumalaw sa kanila nung Pasko, Christmas Day, may dumalaw sa kanila, medyo inuubos sipon-sipon na, nakamag-anak nila from outside Navotas. Yun, after ilang days, nag-report na may COVID siya, nagpa-swab sila. Out of 9 family members, 6 yung nahawakan. So yun yung ina-expect, no? Pero as of now, knock on wood, konti pa lang naman. Pagdating naman dun sa sinasabing UK variant, I think we have to stop them sa border pa lang, which the government has done. Pati yung 14-day quarantine, which is necessary, I think that is a good step. So mukhang nagawa naman yung necessary steps. Mahirap na kasi mag-lockdown, hindi nakakayanin eh.
Okay. Mayor, one final question. Total na ba, nasabi niyo naman kanina na in the meantime, habang nag-aantay tayo, umpisahan na natin ang information campaign, not necessarily on the level of anong pagkakaiba-iba ng mga vaccines, pero on the process of vaccination itself. How would you start off that messaging? What's the most simple message that you can send to our people right now without having to parse through the differences in the vaccines?
Yun. Kaya yung 17.9%, pinapahimay ko. What is the reason why they don't want? Then that's when we will craft the communication. That is the reason why gusto namin malaman, bakit? Kaya may tanong yan na bakit kung hindi eh. It doesn't stop at hindi. Bakit? So that maintindihan namin, ano ba talaga yung agam-agam nila? And we will see what is valid, what has to be explained, yung mga ganyang bagay. No? So it is very important.
Okay. Navotas Mayor Toby Chanco, Happy New Year. Maraming salamat po for joining us.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Thank you,
Stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And we're staying on for the final stage of our conversation. Joining us now is Undersecretary Juan Antonio Perez III, Executive Director of the Commission on Population and Development, or POPCOM. Good evening, Doc GP.
Good evening.
Hi, sir.
Happy New Year.
Nakamute po yata kayo.
Nakamute.
Okay. Yes. Good evening, Roby, Luchi, Ami, and Ed, my good friends, the Chiefs.
Hi, sir.
And Happy New Year to you all.
Happy New Year.
Sir, habang nag-aantay, wala pa tayo masyadong maraming update sa vaccine, pero sa population daw, ang daming update. What are we looking at in 2021? Coming out of 2020. No, parang ang daming nangyari sa 2020. Anong kalalabasan nito sa 2021?
Well, usually we start off the year with a count of the population at the end of the coming year. So we know what we're facing in terms of number of population growth, in terms of working population, dependent population, how our fertility program is going, whether we're achieving the demographic dividend. The most important piece of news, of course, is the population growth rate, which is now 1.31. This is based on a normal projection made by the Philippine Statistics Authority. This is a decline from 1.68 in 2016. It's gone down to 1.31. It will go down by in 2021. However, since it's a normal projection, it will not cover for the COVID impact. And as I've said before, the impact is expected, if it were 100% impacting on the country and impacting 100% the family planning program, 750,000 additional births would happen within the next 9 months. However, the reality is only a third of the country is affected. So rather than 751,000, we think it'll be around closer to
250,
250,000.
250,000.
So we will have probably a population of 111.1 million at the end of the year, or a little beyond that. Hopefully, our efforts with local governments will bear fruit and mitigate the number of unplanned pregnancies, particularly in the first 6 to 9 months of the year. That is a period when we're still facing the COVID. That is a period when we see pregnant women hesitating to go to health centers. DOH reported the numbers are down by 15%. So, and we're hearing more reports of maternal mortalities, not due to COVID, but due to delay in care. Hospitals in Quezon City, Manila, and Cebu reported in the third quarter of last year increases in that area. So those are, let's say, the headline topics.
Okay, but sir, if you're saying that a crucial qualifier here is sa totoo lang naman COVID really impacted on 1/3, and therefore the population hit or growth that surge that we're expecting will also translate to that. You're saying that we will see that particularly in the urban centers, NCR and the urban centers where COVID was really prevalent. That's what you're saying?
Yes, I think in the most hard-hit COVID areas, that in the first part of the year, that was Metro Manila, Cebu, and it's gravitating to other centers now. But NCR will probably the one with the heaviest pressure in terms of additional births, costs, and mortalities. But there's also a phenomenon that we're seeing that since hospitals are not that willing to accept pregnant women, if they're not really in a severe condition, they're being asked to deliver at the lower levels of care. Let's say at the lower level hospital or at the lying-in clinic. And some of them are even opting to give birth at home. So there will be increased pressure on midwives to assist in these births. We have heard of some women moving back to the provinces because of the difficulty of getting care in Metro Manila. So we have been keeping track. Last September, we had the reports, but we only looked at NCR, Cebu, and Zamboanga, and the place in Batangas. We hope to be more frequent in our monitoring in the next few months, 6 to 9 months at least.
So you said
Sir, yung 1.31% po, yung 1.31%, sir, that was an earlier projection, pre-pandemic projection for 2021, di ba? But with the new figure that you cited kanina, mga 250,000 additional pregnancies, if I understand correctly, what would the new projection be?
Yeah, it would be an additional 200 to 300,000 unplanned pregnancies to reach 111.1. Remember, the crude birth rate will be higher than 1.4 or 250,000. It could be in the area of almost 2 million. Because we have to account for deaths, take it out of the population, take out migrants. So it's a complicated process. Yeah, the population growth is a net. The births are much higher than the population growth, actually, or somewhat higher.
Yes, sir. So, 1.3, sir, will become what?
Yeah. What does that represent?
1.3% is 1.4 million additional Filipinos in 2021. 1.4 million.
1.4.
Yeah, it's been declining since 2015.
So hindi pala siya tumaas during COVID. Kasi may mga reports po na dumami yung mga pregnancies during COVID. Uh, tama ba yung mga report na yun, sir?
Or is
Well,
the trend lang?
what we're seeing is the pregnant women are not being seen at the health centers and the hospitals. They're not attending clinics as much as before. There's a downturn in all, you might call it health-seeking behavior when it comes to maternal, child health, because they're afraid of going to the centers.
Right,
Um,
right.
so it's
yeah.
more difficult to track now. But
Okay,
we
so
have not been able in that because of that situation, we have not been able to deliver the services that we wanted. And if
I see.
women don't get the services in family planning, they cannot rely on buying from pharmacies for pills or condoms. They will run out or they will be gaps in their practice. So it becomes more likely that there will be a failure in family planning methods. And that's what UPPI computed. The rate of failure in family planning will lead to unplanned pregnancies. And now that's what we have to monitor in the next 6 to 9 months. And in the middle of a pandemic and in the middle of a vaccination program where we need to vaccinate 80% of 111 million. That's around 88 million Filipinos that would have to be covered. So at least within the year, tens of millions would have to be covered. That's a program that
Kumusta naman
DOH
yung
has never done. It's never
Yusek,
done in the past.
Yusek, we're in recession eh. Kumusta naman yung resources for family planning programs? Apart from yung capability, humina nga, yung resources ninyo, kumusta naman yun? Naapektuhan din kayo?
Well, DOH has been able to buy the commodities that are needed for 2021. And kami sa POPCOM, we're delivering them to the LGUs nationwide. So, and we're looking at the stock levels in all health centers so that we practically go to every health center to check if they need stocks. We have set up warehouses in 4 regions. So I think we're taking care of the supply chain, but it's the last mile, when the supply gets to the health center, the last mile is crucial. Whether the midwife will go out and conduct the program or she will be called to do COVID monitoring. Now, that kind of a problem is happening in many areas where health workers are having to choose between maintaining a health program that they've been doing for a while, but also being pressured to do COVID, go to the boundary and check for anyone coming into the province, things like that. They keep being pulled out. So
Saka
that
before the pandemic, you were talking to us before the pandemic about an increase in teenage pregnancies. Eh ngayon lahat nakakulong yung mga minor sa bahay. Are you also seeing a spike in teenage pregnancies?
The pregnancies will occur sometime later this year, but the UPPI projects also that there'll be a 21% increase in teen pregnancies along with the adult pregnancies. However, the good news is the current budget approved in 2021 has set up a social protection program for teenage mothers who are minors. And we will be setting that up with DSWD in the next month or two because we want to provide support to the 60,000 minors who give birth every year. That is just the count that we have every year. But if you look back 5 years, there are 300,000 minors who have given birth. So we also need to provide support for that. So we have resources for them right now in the program, and DOH has the money for family planning, procurement, but it's the last mile that we're worried about.
Doc, I'm curious. We've been talking about the effects, whether intended or unintended, of the quarantines on the rates of pregnancy. No? But what will be the effect pagka wala ng quarantine? Now, when suddenly people are free to go out and see the people they haven't seen in a long time, I mean, in 2021, immediately after, let's say we're in a post-COVID world, post-quarantine world, what would you model for the birth rate once people are free to go out again and have all of this pent up energy, let's say reconnecting with old acquaintances?
Yeah, that's when family planning will become important, even more important at that stage. But history tells us in the post-war era, after World War II, we had a boom.
Mm,
And that boom continued to the
Boomers.
1960s. That's
mm,
where we had an average family size of 6 children in the 1960s. That was the what we call the baby boomer Philippine style.
Right.
mm, mm.
So we hope that that doesn't happen. We hope our program will be strong enough to provide the necessary protection that people might want from unplanned pregnancies. And I feel that the trend for Filipinos is towards smaller families. It's been declining since the 1960s from 6 children, and this year, 2021, it will be probably lower than 2.5 children on average. That means
Mm.
we're trending closer to 2 children than 3 children as we had seen in the past decade. So we're moving towards smaller families, families that are more resilient to health crises and economic crisis. And I think the COVID crisis is making that even more clear to our Filipino parents to really plan their families and be resilient in this crisis. So the message is really very important for the young parents, not really for those who have already 3 or 4 children. But it's more important for a starting family to think about smaller families.
And what about on the other end of the spectrum of the population, the elderly, katulad na mga kasama ko rito?
I don't think they all agree. But the dependent population, the working age population, first of all, is now 2 out of 3 Filipinos. 64% of Filipinos are of working age, 15 to 64 years old. That's a good part. That's a good part of the population picture.
Yeah.
The
But
difficulty is the dependent to 40 is the um, 60 over, they
yeah,
make up 35%, no? And yung seniors in particular, they will hit 10 million this year. And 10 million seniors have to live with the fact that only 2 million of them, 1.7 million have pensions, GSIS and SSS.
Mm.
wow.
DSWD provides 500 pesos a month for around 3 million seniors. But that leaves
500 a
out
month.
more than 50% of the seniors with, you know,
Yeah.
living on the support, truly dependent on their
On their families.
families.
Or,
If
yeah.
they
Mm.
and if
If they have them.
they
Yeah.
don't have children, they're really in great difficulty. And health care is very important for seniors.
Yes.
So it's very important for the PhilHealth and DSWD to come up with programs really that will support health programs for seniors as they grow bigger, I mean in size, no? And it will continue to grow. And at some point we will hit 14%, and that will mean the Philippines is an aging society. That will be around 1935 though. Not yet, not that close yet, but it's burning.
2035, you mean?
It's a
But, but,
growing.
but, yeah, but we shouldn't even get there. I think we have to have enough. I mean, to me, that's the other side of this population debate, no? Which is now really the problem in Europe, right? There are
Yeah,
more aged people than young people, and the young
yeah,
people are having to bear the tax burden for the sake of the seniors. And the same with Japan. That's a huge problem. So I'm
yeah.
just hoping that we don't get to that point also where in our effort to minimize the growth of the population will end up with aging
Yeah.
people, like
Actually,
some
by
people
by
I know.
yeah, Lucky, by 2025, our growth rate will be at 1%, 1.06, and we hope that it stays that way. That
Mm,
will mean we're getting enough replacement for the workers that we are losing. And I heard from China from a China academic. They said that when they lifted the one-child policy, they started seeing more unplanned pregnancies because they had been resorting to abortions in China. And all of a sudden, abortions went up, family planning was of poor quality. So they were doing abortions rather than family planning. We don't want to get to that point. I think we should maintain a good family planning program because people will want to be fertile at a certain stage of their life only. Let's say between 21 and 28, 29. Beyond that and before that, you can use family planning to control fertility, to maintain a good family size. So I think we cannot dump key programs at the moment when we hit, let's say, when we're afraid of aging. I think we should keep a kind of balance in our programs.
Agree.
Okay.
When it's 1% growth.
Dr. Juan Antonio Perez III of the Population Commission. Doc GP, maraming salamat for joining us tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Salamat po.
Lucy, Ami, and Roby, take care.
Papa,
Happy
salamat
New Year
po.
to you guys.
Happy New Year po.
Happy New Year po. Talagang na-internalize yung senior citizen discussion.
Kasi malaking problema talaga
Tapos
yun.
si Robbie was asking about pent-up energy of acquaintances in relation to population growth.
Hindi, pero totoo lang, di ba? I mean, but he got the point, di ba? Parang yung population boom, the baby boomer generation, immediately after world crisis, you really have to anticipate these things. Not to mention, maraming, and speaking of pent-up, daming mga kasal na hindi natuloy last year, matutuloy this year. So dito makakarga lahat ng mga mga bagong pamilya.
Okay, sige. Sige, sa pasito ka ng paliwanag. Sige. Okay. Well, we can't go overtime anymore. They're booting us out. So that's it for this New Year's edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going throughout the year. I'm Edling of One News.
I'm Mami Paminton of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay and we are One News.